All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Lockdown. A very cool figure. And yeah, he was kind of an interesting oddity in the movie line in that he was like really, like based on his sort of original counterpart from animated, even though a lot of the movie designs, even the ones based on G1 figures, took like huge liberties. Whereas he really does kind of come across as a like movified version of the animated character, which is cool. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the movie aesthetic in general, but getting an updated version of Lockdown was pretty cool, especially since he didn't come out like that long after the original animated Lockdown, so it was cool to get an update of him that soon. And yeah, no, he's a fun figure. He's got an awesome looking car mode. I love the way this looks. He's got like the spikes on the wheels, which of course are a slightly softer plastic there. As is the grill, kind of. Actually, I don't know. No, I don't know. I think that the grill is just like a regular plastic. I mean, the hook that he has is definitely super soft plastic. His other hand is as well. But so some of his bits are like the really soft plastic. But I mean, it doesn't really matter on the spikes just because they're like dense enough that they pretty much always stay in place. He rolls pretty nicely. I do find that it can be kind of annoying to like get all four of his wheels on the ground just because there's a bit of give in terms of like where you have the thighs sitting with these wheels attached, which can really kind of knock him off balance. And then if you push him down too far, then the wheels kind of like rub up against the fenders here. So like that basically. So yeah, there's a bit of give to it, but if you're willing to work with it for a little while, it's not too difficult. It's just there's not like an obvious locking point that gets all four wheels on the ground like just right. You kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit, but he does have the removable engine here, just like his animated figure that is like the EMP thing. It doesn't have like the flip out thing or anything like that. It's just like a singular piece. Weirdly, the peg for it is also shaped like the peg for the animated figure, but is smaller, so it doesn't actually like work with that figure. There was some sort of compatibility at the time with I believe it was the deluxe Ratchet that came out during Revenge of the Fallen, which is a figure I don't have, but his weapon also had this like weirdly shaped tab to it, so they were kind of like cross compatible, which again was a neat homage to the sort of relationship they had in animated. But yeah, no, really cool looking car mode, and it definitely feels like, I don't know, more interesting than a lot of the the movie figure vehicles. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see that works fairly well. I think both him and Sideswipe are slightly large in comparison to a lot of other kind of like more modern car figures, but it works well enough. And then here he is. I don't have the newest version of Lockdown that came in what was it? The Star Raiders pack, not pack, but the Star Raiders subline. But I do have Axle Grease, which was the figure that was mostly retooled into that Lockdown figure, just with a different head. And as you can see, I think that like this figure doesn't really quite get the full shape across. It was never like a super ideal update of the figure, but once we saw that they were doing like Axle Grease like this, it was like, ooh yeah, that's probably going to be animated Lockdown, which is, I don't know. I didn't buy that figure just because I still kind of prefer this guy as an update to Lockdown rather than this body type. But that's what the two of them look like together, for better or for worse here. But yeah, to get into transformation, first thing you want to do, we can just take off the little engine, put it off to the side. You want to take the hook down here and just fold it 90 degrees so it sits out like that. And then we're going to take the back wheels and just fold them down, which is honestly just like a, partial transformation step, because they kind of end up going back onto the hips like that later anyway. At least, I don't know. I think it looks better that way. I don't know if they're supposed to, but whatever. We'll get to that when we get to that. But then you want to take the arm panels here. They will untab from the body and then untab from up here. It is a little bit asymmetrical to actually like, get that asymmetry from the Lockdown design. So while that one takes part of the bumper with it, this one does not. And then, yeah, you just want to untab that section here, and then you kind of joint these out to the sides. They're just on like these double hinge joints set up, so you can just kind of get them out of the way, because then you can take the whole thing. Well, I guess first you want to take the remainder of the bumper and the spoiler here and just fold it up like that, and then take the whole thing and flip it down like this, and then we can split the legs. Then just double joint him at the knees like this. Take the toe sections here and slide them out and fold them down just like that. Again, I'm not sure if you're supposed to leave the wheels out like this, but I just think it looks way better to leave them on the side of the legs, so that's generally what I do. And then you want to take the whole roof section here, and it will kind of untab here and hinge around and then hinge onto the chest just like that, and then tab back into place. It is clear plastic, so, well, no, that's not true. It is like, it's got a clear plastic insert, whereas like the actual bit with the tab is like the brown plastic like everything else, which is nice. And then you want to just take that double hinge joint for each of the arms here, which I guess maybe that's what's messing up here, is you want to do that first. And then you can bring this down, because then it sits a little bit more nicely. But yeah, you want to bring those down, and then the arms are a little bit asymmetrical, like I said. This arm will just untab from this panel here and kind of fold down, and then you want to take this and rotate it up like this, and then take the back bit with the bumper and just tab it in like that. Well, it doesn't tab in, but it just folds around the arm, and then you can kind of fold this arm forward and then flip out the hand here, which again is that soft plastic, like the hook hand. And then for this one, you just fold this around like this, and you take this piece where it was attached and you just kind of hinge it up like this, so he ends up with like this shoulder spike. And then you want to take the hook hand here, and it's on this like piston setup, so it kind of folds in like that and has this sort of like Mecha Live piston thing going on, which is pretty cool. And there we have Lockdown in his robot mode, obviously getting very tall here, so we'll have to adjust the camera. But yeah, no, I think he looks pretty good, all things considered. Definitely, you know, he does have that movie design like spindliness about him, which I'm not crazy about. He's definitely got, you know, quite the deviation in terms of a head sculpt, in terms of what his animated version looked like, because he doesn't have like an actual mouth or anything. It's a little bit more movie-ified, but it's also a little bit less movie-ified than most of the like movie updates of figures, so I can appreciate that. Obviously we can take his EMP blaster here and just tab it onto his arm. He's got the same slot there, and that I think fills out this arm a little bit more, because it's kind of skinny otherwise. But yeah, in terms of articulation, he's kind of got a lot going on at the head. He's got like a swivel here at the base of the neck. His neck is very much based on like what it looked like in the animated design, which I appreciate. He's got a ball joint right here at this joint in the neck. He's got a ball joint at the base of the head, and then also a ball joint where the head attaches to the neck. So you could like, you know, get his neck up like that, but I think that looks kind of dumb. I prefer it with like the hunch down like this. But so he's got a pretty decent amount of posability in the neck, in terms of just like moving it around and making it look like natural, like more natural than just like a regular swivel or ball joint usually would, which is kind of nice to see. His shoulders are on ball joints here, so you can rotate them around and hinge them up to the side. He also has this hinge joint for transformation, so you can use that to kind of adjust the shoulders as well. He's got ball joints at the elbows, which can rotate around and give him a bicep swivel, and then about 90 degrees of bend, at least on this side. On this one, because he's got this whole mechanism for the hook, it only goes about that far. This hand can just fold in. That's pretty much it. I mean, you know, it's pliable, but you know, you're not really getting into any poses. And then the hook can fold in like this and then fold down like that, which again kind of activates that piston. But again, the hook is not something I'm crazy about. I mean, obviously the fact that it's like super soft plastic is not great, but also I feel like it's a little bit much for like Lockdown's hook hand in terms of being like this big ridiculous thing, but it's fine. He's got nothing at the waist. He does sort of, for transformation, have this like ab crunch, which you could use if you want. The hips are on, I guess, universal joints, which can fold only about that far forward, unfortunately. Again, it's kind of, I wish that tabbed into place a little bit better. Only about that far back. Out to the side. This side is a little bit more limited just because of this part of the bumper, whereas this one can go full out to the side. But yeah, not great hip articulation, especially on this leg. He's got a thigh swivel, which also has one of his other little Mecha Live features, because if you look at this bit of sculpting inside his leg here, that rotates when you rotate the the thigh swivel, which is kind of cool. And they are different on either side. Again, just, kind of adding to the asymmetry of this guy. And then his knees, he has this weird sort of like kind of chicken leg setup, or you could just use this as the knee, but then it kind of extends the leg when you do it. So his knees are definitely weird, but he's got these joints here. That one can go about that far, and this one can go about that far. Do whatever with that as you will. But yeah, it's not totally ideal. And then for the feet here, they can tilt up and down, and then they don't really have any ankle tilt because they're kind of like on this slider. There's like, you can sort of cheat it a little bit, but it doesn't really work for that. But still, I think his legs are like long enough and his feet are flat enough that it kind of works. I feel like they're maybe, yeah, I think that they're kind of sculpted at that very, very slight A stance, though it's kind of hard to tell just by looking at it. But his feet definitely do seem like they're kind of flat against the ground here. So, I mean, he also does have this joint here, which I guess is just supposed to be like a ankle tilt. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of bows his legs out a little bit. So he's a little bit weird, but he's kind of a movie aesthetic figure. So they're always going to be a little bit weird in terms of the articulation anyway. But yeah, I'd say the most limiting factor on him is just like the hips, especially the right hip because of this bit. And even if you fold this to the back, that doesn't help like a whole lot just because there isn't really the clearance around this waist piece to bring his hips that far forward. So whatever. But still, other than that, he's pretty decent. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. Just so you can see, he's a very, very tall deluxe, kind of continuing that animated lockdown tradition, because he also was a deluxe in the original animated toy line and just like towered over all the other deluxe figures. And here he is again with Axel Grease, so you can see is herself an average size deluxe, which is why I feel like if they do lockdown again, they'll probably want to do him at a Voyager scale just to like make him like adequately sized compared to other figures, because like, I don't know, that always seemed like kind of a staple of his previous toys of just being like massively huge. And rather than going out of their way to engineer a super tall deluxe, I feel like they're more likely to just do a Voyager. And they have kind of stated that like, though this was a new version of Lockdown that they did with the Axel Grease mold, that it wasn't like a proper update to like an animated universe Lockdown or anything like that. So it's still on the team's mind. So I hope that they will do another Lockdown, at least in the next couple of years when the trademark needs to be used again. But yeah, that's what the two of them look like together. I just feel like he works a lot better as Lockdown than the newer figure. I mean, with her too, with this mold, I guess I should say, for the hook hand, they literally just had you like peg in the gun to their hand and then have the hook stick out of the gun at this weird like kind of angle, and it just doesn't really work. And then like the whole EMP blaster is in 2 bits, so you have to have it kind of like asymmetrically on the arm. It's just like it's like if they were gonna use a retool of a figure, this is the one to do it with. But I don't know. I just think Lockdown could be better served with his own figure rather than just like retool of like the weaponizer, armorizer thing from that line. But yeah, that's what the two of them look like together. And then just for fun, here he is with Studio Series Ratchet and Animated Universe Prowl, just for another couple animated characters that he had a kind of a rapport with in the show, and that's what the three of them look like together. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Revenge of the Fallen Lockdown. He's a cool figure. I really love the vehicle mode. The robot mode aesthetic in general has grown on me, but it definitely is like sort of moviefied a bit. The articulation is a little bit clunky, but he's a fun figure overall. But I do think we are due for a proper update of Lockdown at some point in the future. But for now, he works fine enough for me. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Lockdown.